What can I say? Better late than never.
Complete the mission.
My favourite 2020 books. I'm going to start off quite light, quite easy, freshy flowy. Start off with picture books. Picture/writing books. Is How the King of Elflame Learned to Hate Stories by Holly Black. Surprisingly amazing. The stories were so interesting. Also stories from the Cruel Prince series. Stories from Cardan's point of view. But the Cruel Prince series for me was not my favourite series. Like, I wouldn't reach for it. But this I would reach for. I would reach for this. If it was like across Europe, I would reach for it. Going along with Holly Black, we know that Holly Black and Cassie Clare or Cassandra Clare are friends.
It must be love.
We got Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare, and this is the first book in the Last Hour series. This book, ladies and gentlemen, did not disappoint. A glorious, big ass masterpiece, and I am probably going to read Cassandra Clare's in the Shadowhunter universe till I'm dead, or until she's dead. The natural course of life. She's older than me, so I'm assuming she'll die first. Oh, this is dreary. The next book should have no surprise, should be no surprise. You should not be surprised. It is House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. And guess what? I have one tab. Oh, I remember this tab. Adult fantasy book. It's phenomenal. It follows the main character, Bryce Quinlan. And her friends, her loved ones, they just die from something that she doesn't know. And she basically becomes an investigator, trying to find out who killed her friends. Danica and Bryce's friendship relationship was so good. I went to her mourning stage after finishing this book. I cried so many times the next day. And I couldn't stop thinking about some of the things that happened in this book. And it made me so incredibly sad. And this book is a big old boy. 800 pages. The beginning is quite slow. It takes a while to get into it. The world building and the terminology was difficult. At the beginning to understand, I was like, what the God's name is an ox? And why is it being said everywhere? It was so worth it, and I cannot wait for the next book. I put out all these things thinking I was going to tab the shite. One tab. It's not because I didn't love this book, it's just I don't really like tabbing the book unless I vitally have to, because I feel like it takes away from my enjoyment anyways. I know loads of people do it and they enjoy it. I'm like, yes, fair use to you. I don't know how you do it. Yes, this book is my favourite book of the whole year. The two books I showed you already, they're not on par with this book at all. Superior in my eyes. The next is a reread, and once again, Sarah J. Maas, which is my kryptonite. So I reread A Court of Thorns and Roses and A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas, and I love them so much. And the thing is, those people say that they don't like this book. I really have a thing for trials. Farah went through those trials. I thought they were the most addicting thing I've ever read in my whole life. I was having the best time in my life. I'm not gonna lie, I really liked Tamlin. I was
like this guy.
I first read this book is back in 2017, so I had no experience reading young adult books before that. And I was like, Tamlin is the GOAT. He seems pretty legit to me. He is not legit in this book. I think my favourite part in this book will forever be the end scene. It hits so many string chords within me. I was literally flabbergasted while reading it. I was like, oh, what is she doing? What is he doing? What are they doing? So the next favourite book of this year, educational book, Vagina, a Reeducation by Lynn Enright. And I made a whole video on it, and I was just talking about my experiences with sex education in school. And it was something that I needed to read, because I didn't get a lot of like sex education in primary school, secondary school. The only time I had a class is when I was in 6th year, my final year in school, in secondary school. 18, 19-year-olds. And then they decided to give us these lessons. Most of the people in my class have had sex already, like it 5 times. They've had orgies, everything. I really like this book. It's the beginning of my journey of reading more books that not only help me, I might be able to educate people, which, oh my god, Sarah, an educator, preach it. The next favourite book of this year has to be Blood Kiss by J.R. Ward, and is the first book in the Black Dagger Legacy series, or trilogy, I think it's a series. So we all know J.R. Ward, her Black Dagger Brotherhood series. I'm in love. I read, I think, 17 books in the series, so we know. I am a loyal fan, a loyal supporter. I will be there till death. If you have never read J.R. Ward, I would really recommend it. This one I mainly like because of the whole trial things again. The 2 main characters and all the other side characters who are the main characters in the other books, and I've read them and they're great. They had to go through trials to be able to go into this brotherhood type of thing. It was so addicting. I remember sitting there having the best time of my life reading them. I was like living my life through them. They were falling through ceilings, they were jumping on stuff. I was like, yes. Obviously J.R. Ward, she's known for the saucy bits.
Yes,
saucy
sir.
bits, they
Yes,
are good.
sir.
Chef's Kiss. So the only historical fiction book I read this year is one. but it was my favourite. It is called Marigold Me by Juna Dawson. I'm kind of surprised not a lot of people have read this book, but I thought it was phenomenal. I would recommend listening to an audiobook because the voice actors really good. The book was just such a wholesome, warm, filling book. We were following this one character whose name was Felicity. She was definitely lower than 15 years old. We had like a dual narrative. So then we had Felicity's grandmother, Margot. She was around like World War II. So we're going from the grandmother's point of view to Felicity's point of view, which is more up to date. And at this time, Felicity was like changing schools because her mother had an illness, and it was just going back and forth, and it was so interesting. I can see my breath. The next one filled all of my 12-year-old dreams. It is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. The cover, sizzling hot. This book made my Hunger Game lover dreams come true. I give this book totally 100% 5 stars. I know a lot of people didn't like this book, but I was like wholeheartedly in this book. There were so many Easter eggs, especially towards like the second half of the book of the Hunger Games, like the original trilogy in this book, and it made me so happy. So we're basically following Snow, Coriolanus Snow, sorry, said his name wrong, I forgot the anus bit. He is basically a mentor to a girl in District 12, which I think is so ironic because Katniss was obviously from District 12. I absolutely love this book. I'm not gonna lie, at some sections of the book I was empathetic towards Snow, which is bad and good. Like, I think that's really good for the writer's point of view because Snow is just a total horrible person. So if I empathize with him at sections, honestly, kudos to Suzanne. She's a real homie. It's really interesting because I've seen loads of people talk about this and they say that, oh yeah, at the end of the book I still hate him. For me, it's a bit more different because I'm like, he's shaped like this because of the things he went through. Like, he wasn't born this horrible person. I still think he's like a certified psychopath.
Certified freak.
But like certain events he went through like shaped him to be even a worse possible human. But I wholeheartedly love this book. It filled everything. It filled every crevice, and it was so amazing too because I read the Hunger Games trilogy before I read this. Nostalgia. So we have come to the end. They are all my favorite books of last year. Really grateful for all the books that came out. So excited for the next book in the Crescent City series. I think I read 70 books in 2022, which was really great because my goal was 35. That's because I had the leaving cert, so I thought I wasn't going to have a lot of time, but apparently when I'm needing to study, I read. Procrastination? Read. I had a good reading year. I still haven't learned to DNF books. It's just within me, I can't do it. I physically can't put a book down if I'm not liking it. I feel like I have to flow through. I've encountered this. It's Ninth House by Lee Verdugo. I put it down 3 times now, but I'm going to finish it. But I have put it down, so I'm not DNFing it because I'm picking it back up. I just can't. Like the Fifth Wave series, the first book, I was having such a terrible time reading it, but I kept going. I was like, Sarah, you gotta finish it. So yeah, that was all. Peace.